57talk.com. Gary Cubetta back with you again, Scottsdale, Arizona. My pleasure to introduce Bill Fleckenstein from FleckensteinCapital.com and who writes a weekly column on MSN. Bill, great to have you back with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Bill, I came in contact with you via the television about 11 years ago on CNBC, and I remember every time they'd bring you on, I was a big-time bull at the time, and it was like, oh, my gosh, here comes Bill to throw cold water on our parade. Bill, what was it like being a bear way back in the very, very bullish days of the late 90s?
Well, it was a little bit lonely. It was kind of unpopular, but it was so obvious to me how it was all going to end. And, you know, people were pretty naive, in that equity bubble. I remember I used to debate Joe Battipaglia about once a week. Of course, he's bearish now, but so it was, it was interesting. It seems like so. I mean, not just so long ago in terms of time, but so long ago in terms of all the things that have happened. I mean, to me, the real estate bubble was even more obvious than the stock bubble. Stock bubble almost seems kind of quaint now, if you know what I mean.
Well, absolutely, because the stock bubble, about 50% of the people in the country had stock, but many more were affected by the real estate. First, let's get to the stock market. Dow 10,000, the first time the Dow hit 10,000 was March 29th, 1999. The Dow is now at 10,000, and if you turn on CNBC, I know you're a frequent guest, but it's just amazing. It's as if the last 10 years never happened. And, we've really become a Japan as far as we haven't had the drop, but we're trading sideways for 11 years. It's really amazing.
Yeah, and, that was one of the things that I used to point out from time to time is that, here we just had a real-time example in Japan. I mean, when I was talking in the late 90s, the Japanese market had bubble had only burst like 10 years earlier. We could see what was happening to them. And, of course, but there was no amount of logic or information or anything you could say to people to try to get them to sober up. I mean, it seems so silly now, but I remember the battle cry then was, well, where else are you going to put your money? People thought that it was the only place to put your money. They didn't want to have it in real estate. They wanted to have it in stocks. and now when that bubble burst, obviously stocks have been a lousy place to be on balance if you were just if you were just a index fund owner or something like that, or even worse if you had bad stock picking. And that's the consequence of having a bubble. But of course, the Federal Reserve didn't want to deal with any of the hangover of the bubble,